Told boss I didn't have enough time to do everything. She just laughed. I worked at a newspaper company from the time I was 19 to about 21. Started out as a receptionist and later got placed into a data entry position for the billing of advertisement slots. I was a fast and reliable typist, so it made sense. Not a glamorous job, but I enjoyed it. I was pretty much the only data entry person for a significant time period. My coworkers at the main office would enter their own sales into the system, but I'd enter those from our other offices. During this period, the owners of the company were buying up more small-town newspapers. I believe at the time we were up to about 16, there were over 20 when I left, and they were still buying more. Well, one of the things I did before I moved into data entry was do legal documents. This mostly consisted of changing dates, newspaper name, and supervisor's name. Then I would paste on a cutout of the notice that they require a legal document for and place them on my boss's desk for her to get signed and notarized. I stopped doing legal documents after I trained the new receptionist, who was frankly not that great at her job. I don't remember why exactly, but my boss asked me if I could do a few legal documents one week. At this point in time, we had just bought 4 new newspapers, and I was way too busy trying to keep up with deadlines to do those legal documents. So I told her I didn't have the time to do them, and she just laughed at me and told me I'd figure it out. Keeping in mind that I'm 20, the youngest person in the office by at least a decade, overworked from being the sole person in charge of multiple newspaper advertisements, and a frequent scapegoat for any mistakes made in the data. Which, like 9 times out of 10, the mistakes were made by my boss. You can literally see this by checking who last opened and submitted an ad. They just never bothered verifying beforehand who made the mistake. I pointed this out countless times, and they'd just sheepishly walk away. Which all led me to decide to be a bit petty. So I went to my office and entered the data. Every newspaper had a different deadline which I'd have to meet so they could compare the preprints to the data for the following week. But those legals weren't due until Friday. So for 3 days I struggled to keep up with the sheer bulk of all the data I had to enter, and barely even glanced at those legal documents. Friday was a slower day in the afternoon, but the notary typically left around noon. By the time I got the legals done, she was gone. My boss, who had forgotten about the legals, blew up demanding why I didn't do them earlier and that they had to go out today. I, who still had a giant stack of data I had to enter by Monday at noon, simply looked her in the eye and said, "I told you I didn't have the time to do them." Apparently I glared so hard that she immediately backed down, which honestly I was, and still am, super proud about. She ended up having to drive to the notary's house and get her to sign them and drive back to the office and fax them. The notary did not live in town,